Let's talk about Chud the Builder and the case that he finds himself in. Now, I'm a person that's going to establish right up front that freedom of speech, this is not about freedom of speech. And it's a shame that people that call themselves well-informed Americans don't understand that. Freedom of speech has nothing to do with harassing the general public. Freedom of speech has to do with the government stepping in and trying to tell you what you can and cannot say, or what you can or cannot share with the public on things like social media or on radio, anything that you want to disseminate to the public. The government can't tell you you can't do that. That would be denying you your freedom of speech. So this case is not about that. And these people here are saying, well, I believe in freedom of speech. And nobody is telling you that you can't. How can you be that ignorant that you don't know the difference? Now, when you approach a civilian in public, nobody can stop you from saying what you want to say to them. That's already a well-known and established fact. You're conflating the issue of someone being offended by what you say and your your right to say it. You can say it, but if it offends someone, you can still say it, but you might suffer the consequences. Now, keep in mind, if you say that your freedom of speech is being threatened because someone that you said something to assaulted you, that's not threatening your freedom of speech, because if that person can't justify why they hit you, they probably going to be arrested. Now, in this case, like I said, this is not a case about freedom of speech. You're not going to be able to go in court and argue about freedom of speech, because that's not what this is about. So, this guy, Chud or Dalton, he decided to go out and try to stretch the limits of what he calls his First Amendment rights. What he should have been studying, though, was his Second Amendment rights and his right to self-defense. Because he would have found out that if you shoot somebody in self-defense, even if it's later found to be justified, that doesn't mean you won't get arrested, you won't be held in jail, you won't have to pay for a lawyer, that you won't be sued. All these things are possible. It's not decided right there on the spot whether or not you shot in self-defense. It's never that open and shut. And if your friend, if this guy Chud would have studied some case law on these type of cases, he would have known that. He would have probably been a lot more cautious about drawing that weapon, about approaching people and antagonizing and harassing people in public, confusing the meaning of freedom of speech in the First Amendment with your right to harass people in public, verbally harass and antagonize people. That you don't have a right to do that. There's laws against that. Stalking and harassing, you can't do that. That has nothing to do with freedom of speech. So if you were such a constitutionalist, then you should have been more in tune with how our constitutional rights are upheld by the court. Like, there's always a process. Even if it turns out that the person is justified, there's still a process. So he should have known that going in. If you were, I don't know if he had a license to carry a firearm or whatever, but if you carry a firearm, you should know the particular laws on self-defense and when you can meet what force with what appropriate force. And a lot of states, you can't shoot somebody because they punched you, because that's not the equal measure of force to be met with. You're using deadly force against regular force. That's for a jury to decide. Like, somebody can say, yeah, but you could punch somebody in the head, they could die, yeah. But would that have happened in this situation or several other situations? They look at that. They don't just say, oh yeah, he hit you and you shot him. Okay, case closed. See, he gambled. And the worst thing that he did, and the reason why I know he's going to be convicted, is because he said too much to the police after the incident. It's not what you do before the incident. It's not what you do during the incident. It's what you say to the police after the incident before you talk to an attorney. I guarantee you, had Chud the Builder not given a statement to the police, not giving them, not admitting that he shot somebody before he spoke to an attorney, he might not be in jail right now. But since he didn't thoroughly study self-defense laws in this country, this goofball started a fight, shot someone, and then went and confessed to the police that he did it. And he thought he was just going to go home and have supper. You know, he was ready to have a lit summer. He thought he was going to be outside, you know? Nah, you're not going to be outside, bro, sir. You're not. You shot somebody. You're claiming self-defense. Okay, so right there you admit that you shot them. So now the only question is, was it a justified shooting or not? And that's going to be up to a jury to decide. It's highly unlikely that the charges are going to be dropped again because you all but confessed to doing it. And if you was as smart as you thought you were, you would know not to call the police and tell on yourself. There's plenty of free public information or free legal advice that you could have researched on YouTube, on Google. You could have looked at some cases. You could have got free legal advice on how to proceed. Since you do carry a gun, right? And since you appear to be Well, you appear to be hell bent on shooting a black person. Shouldn't you already have done more research than, oh, it's my First Amendment right? You're an idiot, homeboy, because that has nothing to do with the First Amendment. And you would have known that had you did some basic research on self-defense law in America. Andrew Breaker has a free book that he gives out. It's called The Law of Self-Defense. He'll mail it to you. All you got to do is pay for the postage. It's free. Attorney Andrew Breaker. The same attorney that's on YouTube now doing other podcasts explaining your case, explaining Chud the Builder's case, that same guy, I've been watching him for a while now, getting free legal advice. And he'll tell you, we have a right to self-defense, but watch what you do if you carry a firearm out here. Because if it's just you and one other person, or if you do anything to cast doubt on the circumstances of why you shot someone, you're going to go to jail most likely, even if you get acquitted in the end. So shooting someone is never something to be done lightly. Your life really has to be in danger. Someone else's life really has to be in danger. Especially if you're a type person that moves around from state to state. You got to know the law in every state that you go to. But aside from that, even if you're just local to your own hometown and you're carrying, you should know what to expect. If you shoot somebody, you can't go into a situation like that. Brian talking about, I'm practicing my Second Amendment and my First Amendment. And you don't know what the hell you're talking about. You really don't. You didn't do your homework. And that's, unfortunate for you. I guess you didn't see jail coming, did you? Chud, Dalton. You didn't see it coming, did you? Because you really thought that you had some unwritten privilege where the law don't apply to you. You can bait someone into a fight and then come out the victor in the end. Okay, well, we'll see what happens. But guess what? Like I said, attorney's fees. You could get sued because you shot somebody. That's assault with a deadly weapon. That's a tortious civil action, meaning they could sue you for shooting them. Even if you get acquitted, you could still be held civilly liable. Did you know that? So all the money, any monies that you make going forward off of this experience, you're probably going to lose most of it to lawsuits and paying attorney's fees. I guess you didn't think about that when you went on your racist hate spree, trying to spread negativity under the guise of practicing free speech. Come on, bro. You're 28 years old. You think people haven't tried that before? You a kid. You don't think we've seen people like you come before? Thinking, oh man, yeah, I do what I want. I got the whole system figured out. No, you don't. So this is for you to learn a lesson. I don't really care if you learn. I don't care about you personally. Let's make that clear. I think you are a young arrogant, entitled weirdo. But, you live and learn. So, you know, um, you gotta use your noodle better next time, because you in a whole world of stuff for no reason, man. Self-defense and going out and hoping that you get home safely is not a game, man. You don't play with that. You go out, you do what you gotta do, you mind your business, and you hope, and you don't look for trouble. That's a principle of life. You don't go looking for trouble, because you will find it. And like they always say, it's easy to get in trouble and hard to get out of trouble. Very hard. Look how easy it was for you to throw away your whole life, sir, for silliness, nonsense, juvenile behavior, dangerous, violent juvenile behavior that you should have known better. Like I said, all you had to do is spend the day watching YouTube videos on the attorneys, the armed attorneys, Washington gun law, um, the Four Boxes Diner, legal scholars. They would have told you that's a bad idea what you doing. You playing with fire. Okay? You're playing with fire. Especially if you instigate something. And you think that you can instigate something and then not be held responsible. So now, what can we learn as a community here about this case? Well, this case and self-defense cases in general, because if you look at the parallels between Chud the Builder, Dalton, and Allstar JR, the rapper from out of Detroit, the one one of the similarities that I see in these two cases with Allstar JR, all the preliminary reports was that he was being jumped by some people, by some men. He's being assaulted and robbed. Somehow he managed to get a gun in his hand, and he fired on the men, and what everyone believed would have been self-defense. And I'm not saying it wasn't self-defense, but what I see so far from this case is just like with Chud the Builder. You don't speak on the case, whether it's a direct call to 911 to the police directly after it happens, like, hey, yo, I just got robbed and I had to shoot somebody in self-defense or whatever. You don't do that. And you don't go online and speak on it either while it's still being investigated. And you don't send out spokesmen either to speak on your behalf, especially if they're not trained criminal defense lawyers or trained communication specialists that specialize in protecting high-profile people from further recrimination after the fact. So, just like Chud the Builder called the police and told on himself, Allstar JR should have just fell back, been thankful that he survived that situation, and fell back off the trolling for a while because that kind of backfired on him. And I don't like it. I hope they free that man because everything I know about the case, this was clearly a case of self-defense. And as far as the federal part of it goes, with the weapons possession in the hands of a felon, I hope they find a way to work that out to his favor too. But yeah, man, don't make any statements public to the police while things are still being investigated by the police. From the time the incident happens, the clock is going on the investigation. So get you an attorney and clam up. Clam up. That's what we can learn from these cases. And the other self-defense case with the Asian man that shot the black child, chased him around, and shot him in cold blood. Yeah, that was a case, I believe, of jury nullification. Bad prosecutors that couldn't make a case like that. And this is why in America, our number one challenge is a fair criminal justice system. So, and these are examples of it. If they will take out people like Chad the Builder, put him in jail, and then, JR is get locked up for defending himself. That Asian man, he had to stand trial, pay for lawyers. So like I said, whether you're right or wrong, in these cases, it's going to cost you, 9 times out of 10, it's going to cost you, especially if you talk to the police before you talk to an attorney. Now, I'm not an attorney, so don't take my word for what I'm saying. Do your own research. Some people say that not talking to the police at all is not smart either. I fall into the school of, well, never mind where I fall in that. Just just keep in mind that these cases are not always open and shut, and so it's best to just keep your mouth shut at least until the case is closed. Because even if the police don't, or the FBI, the Fed, even if they don't arrest anyone, they will still investigate, and at some point, they'll close the case because there's no reason to arrest anybody. But until they do that, it's best that you keep your yap shut. So that's all I got on that right now. So remember, this judge case is not about the First Amendment. It's more about the Second Amendment and your right to defend yourself, but only under certain circumstances. You can't just go out there targeting people and assaulting them, trying to murder them, and think you could just go home that night and business as usual. Don't work that way. So leave it in the comments if how you feel about this topic. I'm confident that Chud the Builder will be found guilty of something serious and go to prison. And I'm also confident that Allstar JR is going to beat these cases. because they're bogus. So I'm looking forward to build up my subscribership. So if you want to subscribe to the channel, please do, because I'm going to be coming with a lot of topics, a lot of discussion on a variety of issues. And I would love your support. And if you like the video, please show it by hitting the like button. Appreciate you. Have a good one.